No one orders me around. Speak, fool. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. Finally. What is it now? Ah, at last. Tread lightly. Finally.
We're under attack!
What is it now? Faithless coward. Your pain shall be legendary. Ah, at last. This is more like it. Faithless coward. No one orders me around. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. Ah, at last. Finally. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. Ah, at last. Tread lightly. No one orders me around. Frostmourne hungers. What is it now?
Hello there!
No one orders me around. Speak, fool. Ah, at last. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. No one orders me around. Finally. Ah, at last. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. Tread lightly. Ah, at last. This is more like it. Ah, at last. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. This is more like it. Speak, fool. No one orders me around. Finally. Ah, at last. Finally. Ah,
Our
at
allied
last.
town is being attacked!
Tread lightly. Speak, fool. Frostmourne hungers. What is it now? This is more like it. Finally.
We're under attack!
Now, Frostmourne. This is more like it. Ah, at last. Finally. This is more like it.
Point the way.
Frostmourne hungers. No one orders me around.
Point the way.
Tread lightly.
Point the way.
What is it now? This is more like it. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. Ah, at last.
Point the way. Point the way.
No one orders me around. What is it now? This is more like it. You will know endless torment. No one orders me around. Only choose. Finally.
We're under attack! Our hero has been slain!
Speak, fool.
Our allies' hero has
Frostmourne
been
hungers.
slain!
Ah, at last. Finally. This is more like it. Ah, at last. This is more like it. Tread lightly. No one orders me around. Finally. Speak, fool.
Our
This is more
allied town
like
is
it.
being attacked!
What is it now? Finally. Tread lightly.
We're under attack!
Speak, fool. Frostmourne hungers. Now, Frostmourne. Tread lightly.
Our allied town is being attacked!
Finally. Ah, at last. What is it now? Speak, fool. Tread lightly. Finally. No one orders me around. At last. Finally. Speak, fool. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. At last. This is more like it. At last. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers.
Our allied hero has been
Finally.
slain.
Frostmourne hungers. Finally. This is more like it. No one orders me around. What is it now? At last. This is more like it. At last. This is more like it. No one orders me. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. Finally.
Our allied
last.
town is being attacked.
Finally. At last. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. Tread lightly. At last. Finally. What is it now? At last. This is more like it. At last. For the Lich
Our
King.
allied hero has been slain.
Frostmourne hungers. Finally. Your pain shall be legendary. For the Lich King. Frostmourne hungers. At last. Finally. Speak, fool. No one orders me around. At last. Tread lightly. Frostmourne hungers. No one orders me around. This is more like it. At last. Tread lightly. This is more like it. Now, Frostmourne. You will know endless war. Faceless coward. At last. This is more like it.
Point the way.
What is it now? Speak, fool. Finally.
Our allied town is being attacked.
At last. This is more like it. Tread lightly. Finally. This is more like it. Finally. At last. For the Lich King. Of the Frostmourne hungers. What is it now? At last. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. At last. Finally. This is more like it. At last. No one orders me around. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. At last. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. This is more like it. Finally.
Point the way.
Tread lightly. At last. What is it now?
Our allied
This is
town
more
is being
like it.
attacked.
Tread lightly. What is it now? At last. Tread lightly. Finally.
Our allied town is
What
being
is it now?
attacked.
Frostmourne hungers. At last. Finally. Speak, fool. At last. Finally. This is more like it. Tread lightly. What is it now? Finally. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. This is more
Our allied town is being attacked!
Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it.
Our allied
Frostmourne
hero has been
hungers.
slain!
This is more like it. Your pain shall be legendary. Finally. This is more like it. Finally. At last. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. This is more like it. Tread lightly. What is it now? Tread lightly. At last.
Point the way.
Speak, fool. Frostmourne hungers.
We're under attack!
What is it now? No one orders me around. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. For the Lich King. Speak, fool. Finally. Tread lightly. This is more like it. What is it now? Tread lightly. Speak, fool. What is it now? No one orders me around. Speak, fool. Tread lightly. At last. Frostmourne hungers.
Our allied town is being attacked!
No one orders me around. This is more like it. What is it now? At last. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. At last.
Point the way.
Speak, fool. Frostmourne hungers. Tread lightly. At last. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. What is it now? This is more like it. At last.
Our hero has been slain!
Tread lightly. What is it now? Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. At last.
Our
Finally.
allied town is being attacked!
Speak, fool. At last. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. Tread lightly. Finally. No one orders me around.
Our
Frostmourne
allied town is
hungers.
being attacked!
At last. Speak, fool. No one orders me around. What is it now? Frostmourne hungers.
Point the way.
Speak, fool. No one orders me around. What is it now? At last. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. At last. Finally. This is more like
Our
it.
allied town is
away.
being
Speak,
attacked!
fool.
Point the way.
No one orders me around. At last. What is it now? No one orders me around. Speak, fool. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. This is more like it. Now, Frostmourne. Frostmourne hungers. At last. Frostmourne hungers. At last. This is more like it. At last. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. This is more like it. At last. This is more like it. At last. Finally. At last. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it.
Our allied town
No one
is being
would
attacked.
around. Frostmourne hungers. At last. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. At last. Speak, fool. Frostmourne hungers. At last. For the Lich King. This is more like it. At last. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. At last. Finally. Tread lightly. This is more like it. Finally. What is it now? Speak, fool. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. Your pain shall be legendary. I'll make sure you suffer. No one orders me around. You will know end.
We're under attack!
This is more like it. Finally. Tread lightly. No one orders me around. Frostmourne hungers. Tread lightly.
We're under attack!
No one orders me around. This is more like it. Your pain shall be legendary. What is it? Frostmourne hungers. Finally. Tread lightly. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like
Our
it.
allied town is being
Finally.
attacked!
Speak, fool. You will know everything. What is it? This is more like it. No one orders me around. Finally. Speak, fool. No one orders me around. Tread lightly. This is more like it. At last.
Our allied
Finally.
town is being attacked!
This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. At last. Frostmourne hungers.
Our allied
At
town
last.
is being attacked!
Frostmourne hungers. At last. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers.
Our allied town
This
is
is more
being
like
attacked!
it.
Our
No
allied
one
are
orders
attacked!
me
Slain!
around. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. At last. This is at last.
Our allied town is being
Frostmourne
attacked!
hungers. Finally. At last. Frostmourne hungers. At last. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it.
Our allied's hero has been slain! Our allied town is being attacked! Our hero has been slain! Our allied town is being attacked! Our allied town is being attacked!
Speak, fool. At last. This is more like it. lightly. Finally. This is more
Our
like
allied
it.
town is being attacked!
Finally. Frostmourne hungers. What is it now? Finally. Frostmourne hungers. Ah, at last.
Our
Frostmourne
allied town
hungers.
is being attacked!
Finally. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. Frostmourne hungers.
Our hero has Our allied town is being attacked! Our allied town is being attacked! Our allies' hero has been slain!
Speak, fool. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. What is it now? This is more like it. Finally. Speak, fool. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. Ah, at last. This is more like it. Finally. This is
Our
more
allied
like
town
it.
is being attacked!
Ah, at last. Finally.
Our
Frostmourne
allies' hero has
hungers.
been slain!
This is more like it. Ah, at last. Finally. This is more like it. Finally. What is it now?
Our allied town is being attacked!
No one orders me around. This is more like it.
Our allies' hero
at
has
last.
been slain!
This is more like it. Ah, at last.
Our
This
allied
is more
town is
like
being
it.
attacked!
Frostmourne hungers. Ah, at last. Speak, fool. Frostmourne hungers. What is it now?
Our allied town
This
is
is
being
more like
attacked!
Ah, at last. Finally. This is more like it. Ah, at last. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. This is more like it. Finally. This is more like it. Finally.
Our allied town is being attacked! Has been slain! Our allied town is being attacked! Our allied town is being attacked!
Speak, fool. Tread lightly.
Our allied town is
No
being
one orders
attacked!
me around. Tread lightly. What is it now? This is more like it. Tread lightly. Finally. Ah, at last. Finally. Ah, at last. Finally. Ah, at last. Finally. Frostmourne hungers.
Point the way.
No one orders me around. Finally. Ah, at last.
Our allied town is being attacked!
Frostmourne hungers. What is it now? No one orders me around. Finally. Speak, fool. This is more like it. No one orders me around. Finally. Tread lightly. Frostmourne hungers. Ah, at last. Finally.
Our allies' hero has been
Frostborn
slain.
hungers. This is more like it. Finally. What is it now? Frostborn hungers. Ah, at last. Finally. Speak, fool. Ah, at last. No one orders me around. Frostborn hungers. Finally. This is more like it. Ah, at
Our
last.
allied town is being attacked.
Finally. Frostborn hungers. Your pain shall be legendary. For the Lich King. Finally. Ah, at last. Speak, fool. Frostborn hungers. No one orders me around. This is more like it. Ah, at last. You will know endless torment. Finally. Your pain shall be legendary. Ah, at last. Now, Frostborn. Oh, this is more like it. At last. Frostborn hungers. What is it now? Speak, fool. Ah, at last. This is more like it. What is it now? Frostborn hungers. This is more like it. Frostborn hungers. Faithless coward. No one orders me around. Finally. At last. This is more like it. Frostborn hungers. This is more like it. Finally. Frostborn hungers.
Our allies' hero has
At
been
last.
slain.
For the Lich King.
Our allied town is being attacked.
Point the way.
Our hero has been slain. Our allies' hero has been slain. Our allied town is being attacked. Our allied town is being attacked.
Lightly. Speak, fool. What is it now? Frostborn hungers. Ah, at last. Speak, fool. What is it now? This is more like it. Speak. Finally. No one orders me around. This is more like it. Frostborn hungers. Ah, at last. This is more like it. Ah, at last. What is it now? This is more like it. Ah, at last.
Our
This
allied town is being attacked.
Frostborn hungers. Finally. Ah, at last. You will end.
We're under attack.
Speak. No one orders me. Tread lightly. This is more like it. Frostborn hungers. This is more like it. Ah, at last. This is more like it. last, this is more like it. Frostborn hungers. Finally. Frostborn hungers. At last. Frostborn hungers. At last. Speak, fool. Tread lightly. Finally. What is it now? Speak, fool.
Our allied town is being attacked!
No one. Frostborn hungers. Finally. This is more like it. Finally. What is it now? Speak, fool. No one orders me around.
Our allied
at
town
last.
is being attacked!
Speak, fool. No one orders me around. Speak, fool. Tread lightly. Finally. This is more like it. Finally. This is more like it. At last. This is more like it. Frostborn hungers.
Our allied town is
at
being
last.
attacked!
Frostborn hungers. What is it now? This is more like it. No one orders me around. Speak, fool. At last. This is more like it. Frostborn hungers. This is more like it. At last. Finally. This is more like it. Frostborn hungers. At last. Tread lightly. This is more like it. Frostborn hungers. Finally. This is more like it. At last. This is more like it. Finally. At last. This is more like it. Frostborn hungers. Your pain shall be finished. Finally. Frostborn hungers. This is more like it. Frostborn hungers. No one orders me around. Tread lightly. What is it now? Speak, fool.
Our allied town is being attacked!
Tread lightly. This is more like it. Frostborn hungers. This is more like it. Frostborn hungers. This is more
Our
like it.
allied town is being attacked!
This is more like it. Finally. Frostborn hungers. Finally. This is more like it. Frostborn hungers. This is more like it. Finally. Speak, fool. Now,
Our allied town is being attacked!
Frostborn hungers. This is more like it. Frostborn hungers. Finally. This is more like it. Frostborn hungers. At last. This is more like it. At last. Frostborn hungers.
Our hero has been slain!
last. Speak, fool. Tread lightly. Finally. No one orders me around. This is
Our
more
allied hero has been slain.
Finally. Frostmourne hungers.
Our allied
This is
town
more
is being attacked.
At last. Frostmourne hungers. This is more at last. This is more
Our allied town is being
at
attacked.
last. Finally. At last. Frostmourne hunger. This is more like it. Frostmourne hunger. At last. Finally. Frostmourne hunger. At last. Frostmourne hunger.
Our allies' hero
This
has
is
been
more
slain.
Frostmourne hungers. What is it now? This is more like it. Frostmourne
Our allied
hungers.
town is being attacked.
Finally. This is more like it. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. At last. Finally.
Our allied town
At
is being
last.
attacked.
Frostmourne hungers. Speak, fool. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. At last. What is it now? Finally. At last. Finally. At last. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. Finally. At last. Frostmourne hungers. At last. Finally. This is more like it. At last. Finally. This is more like it. Finally. No one orders me around. At last. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. At last. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. At last. This is more like it. Finally. At last. Finally.
Welcome to our
Speak, fool. Frostmourne hungers. Finish now. Tread lightly.
Our allied hero has been slain.
Speak, fool. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. At last. Finally. At last. Finally. No one orders me around. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. At last. This is more like it. Tread lightly. Frostmourne hungers. What is it now? This is more like it. Finally. This is more like it. At last. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. At last. Finally.
Our allied town is being attacked. Our hero has been slain.
one orders me around. Speak, fool. Frostmourne hungers. At last. Tread lightly. This is more like it.
Our allies'
Frostmourne
hero has been
hungers.
slain.
At last. This is more like it. Finally. At last. Finally. This is more like it. Finally.
Point the way.
Speak, fool. At last. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. This is more like it. Finally. At last. This is more like it. At last. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. Tread lightly. Finally. This is more like it. Finally. This is more like it. Speak, fool. Frostmourne hungers.
Our allies'
This is
hero
more
has
like
been
it.
slain.
Finally. No one orders me around. At last. This is more like it. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers.
Our allied
at
town
last.
is being attacked.
Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. At last. This is more like it.
Our allied town is being attacked.
Frostmourne hungers. At last. What is it now? Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. Now, Frostmourne. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. At last. Finally. At last. Finally. This is more like it. Speak.
Our hero has been slain. Our allies' hero has been slain.
Your body will be finished by me. Give me the power of all the transformations. Open up the door that
Our
connects
allied
space
town
to
is being
space-time.
attacked.
The follower of light.
Our allied town is being attacked.
What is it now? This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. Speak, fool. This is more like it. Frostmourne hungers. What is it
Our
now?
allied town is being attacked.
Tread lightly. This is more like it. Speak, fool. Finally. This is more like it. At last. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. No one orders me around. At last. Tread lightly. Frostmourne hungers. This is Frostmourne hungers. Speak, fool. At last. last, Frostmourne hungers. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. No one orders me around. Speak, fool. What is it now? No one orders me around. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. Tread lightly. No one orders me around. Speak, fool. Ah, at last. Frostmourne hungers. This is what finally. Frostmourne hungers. What is it now? Finally. Ah, at last. No one orders me around. Tread lightly. This is more like it. No one orders me around. Frostmourne hungers. Ah, at last. Tread lightly. This is more like it. Ah, at last. Frostmourne hungers. This is more
Point the
like
way.
it. Ah,
Point the
at
way.
last. This is more like it. Frostmourne
Our
hungers.
allied town is being attacked!
Frostmourne hungers. Ah, at last. Frostmourne hungers. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. This is more like it. Ah,
Our
at
allied town
last.
is being attacked!
Frostmourne hungers.
Our
Speak.
allied hero has been slain!
What is it now? Ah, at last. No one orders me around.
Our allied town is being attacked!
This is more like it. Tread lightly. Frostmourne hungers. Ah, at last. Finally. Frostmourne hungers. Ah, at last. Finally. Ah, at last. Speak, fool. No one orders me around. Frostmourne
Our
hungers.
allied town is being
This is
attacked!
Speak, fool. Frostmourne hungers. Ah, at last. Frostmourne hungers.
Our allied town is being attacked!
No one orders me around. Speak, fool. This is more like it. Ah, at last. This is more like it. No one orders me around. Frostmourne hungers. Ah, at last. Finally. This is more like it.
Our allied town is being attacked!